Majid Jafar is with us, the CEO of Crescent Petroleum. This is a Middle Eastern integrated oil business. Good morning, sir. Nice to see you.
Good morning,
I was talking with Peter Voser earlier on. They've just inked a big deal with the Ukrainians. This is a $10 billion deal. Shale gas story. How do we interpret the shale gas revolution for the Middle East?
Well, first of all, I think that the rise of unconventionals generally in oil and gas, particularly the shale gas revolution in the US, is the most significant economic event in the last few years. And if anything, it's been underplayed. And now, of course, the big question is it sustainable over time? And I think it is, particularly for the US. And can it come over to other parts of the world? A lot of debate in Europe at the moment, so this deal with Ukraine is significant. From the Middle East perspective, there's still a lot of conventional oil and gas to be developed, but the fact that the US may become a net exporter and certainly doesn't need to import as much could have political ramifications for the Middle East as well.
Yeah, just walk down the road with us on this then, because there are a lot of people now who are trying to draw conclusions about what this means for the oil that is left in the Middle East and whether this is going to be a negative news story, if you like, for Middle Eastern economies if the US is self-sustaining.
Well, I think that the big rise in any case in demand worldwide now for energy, Jeff, doesn't come from the OECD and the rich countries, or it's more from China and India and the developing world in any case. The Middle East's big problem, though, is that we're consuming too much of our own energy. I mean, we're getting high on our own supply. Our consumption's up 500% in the last 30 years, and it's the fastest growing demand region for energy. A lot of that is because of subsidies. We waste $500 billion a year on subsidies, and we need to better manage our demand and our energy efficiency, and also create the incentives for development of the upstream, particularly in the gas sector, which is where we're active.
So your message would be that if America is heading in that direction, that's going to force your region to be more efficient in its energy usage.
I think that's something we need to do anyway. And I think, as I said, the growing markets are in the East. There's still 60% of the world's oil and 40% of the world's natural gas in the MENA region. So there's no doubt it's going to be a major player in supply going forward. We do need some important initiatives in policy, and the big driver now, Jeff, as you're hearing throughout everything here at Davos, is the need to create jobs, and that's the same priority whether it's the US, Europe or the Middle East. So using our own energy resources to increase job creation at home is an area where we as regional players feel we can add a lot of value.
Let's talk specifically about Crescent. What is the opportunity for you this year?
Well, Crescent and our gas affiliate, Dana Gas, which is publicly listed and planning a London listing, of which I'm on the board, are very active in particular in Iraq, in the Kurdistan region. We've invested close to $1 billion there, and we're the largest gas producer there. And we've found a good investment climate there, and we're proud to be the biggest cumulative producer so far. Dana Gas also very active in Egypt, where it's the 5th biggest gas producer. Obviously, post-revolution, there's some payment issues. We think we'll be able to get through those. And overall, particularly post-Fukushima and the pull away from nuclear, it's very clear that gas is the energy source of the 21st century. And even for climate change, it's an interesting contrast where the US, with the shale gas revolution, with no Kyoto targets, is down to the lowest emission levels in 20 years. Whereas in Europe, Germany in particular, with all these renewables targets, is actually having a rise in carbon emissions because of burning so much coal to back those renewables. So sometimes the government targets doesn't get you where the private sector can.
What's your working price for oil per barrel going forward through the rest of this year?
Well, the interesting thing is we've actually had probably the most stable couple of years in oil prices, and despite the global economic downturn, 110 has been pretty stable. Most of the industry screens projects around the $80 level, 80 to 90 I would say, and governments certainly in the region, oil producing governments, tend to budget at that sort of level. Natural gas, of course, much bigger variation, and the US now has become competitive in petrochemicals and other sectors because of the shale gas revolution.
Very good talking with you. Thank you very much for stopping by our position here at the World Economic Forum. Majid Jafar then, the CEO of Crescent Petroleum.